that transition from alcohol to food, they need to go to detox in a treatment center to quit. If they quit on their own, the odds are the alcoholic will probably have a heart attack or seizures and stroke, and they will die if they're physically addicted to alcohol, because their cells are used to living off of alcohol rather than food. Alcohol is their main diet, their source of calories, and it affects their neural systems and brain transmitters and all that good stuff. And I know because I've been drinking since I was like 5. And this time I had 4 years up until 2 days ago. And then I just started drinking again. And basically, alcoholics cannot control their drinking. So that's, it's like once you take a drink, it's like a gamble. You can't have just one. I've woken up in different states. I remember one time I was at a party in Ballard, Washington, with these crab fishermen that just came back. They go up crab fishing and they come back with 150,000 in their pocket, and they throw these elaborate parties. And I was like in the kitchen, and I'm underneath the tap of this keg, and I got my mouth open, and everybody's cheering me on, yeah, 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 and I'm just freaking guzzling as much as I can, and it's spilling all over me and my shirt and my pants and the floor, and I'm drinking as much as I can, and they're cheering me on. And then that's the last thing I remember of this party. And then next thing I remember was I wake up and I'm in the front seat of my car. It was a bench seat car, so I'm laying sideways on the bench seat, and I'm hearing ocean waves. And like Puget Sound doesn't have ocean waves where I was at. And I'm hearing these ocean waves, and I'm like, where am I? And so I noticed I was low on gas, so I'm driving to the gas station, and I noticed that there's like Oregon and California plates. And I go into the gas station, and I tell the gas station attendant to fill it up. And I asked him, what day is it? And he's like, well, it's Wednesday, and the party I went to was on Sunday. And I mean, I didn't know where I was for 4 days of my life. And I still don't. I mean, I know I ended up there in Crescent City, and I know I started out in Ballard, Washington, but to this day, I cannot tell you how I got there. So I'm like a blackout drinker. One time I was drinking in Washington, and I woke up in Tijuana, Mexico, in a bar, and I didn't know how I got there either. In a different country. And then I've woken up like in different basements and not known how I got there, with people I didn't know that all of a sudden I do know, that remind me of what I was like. So yeah, this is like a part 2, I guess, of breaking the denial, trying to get an alcoholic sober. It's a tough task. But the most important thing to do is to break the denial. And the best way to break the denial is to get them to look in the mirror. And the best way to really get them to look in the mirror is to get them to meet another alcoholic that has the exact same problem. Because they think differently. And they've lived a different lifestyle for a long time. So they are kind of on the same page. And so if you can get an alcoholic to talk to the alcoholic that you want to get sober, that it's in denial, that's their best shot. Period. Nobody knows how to deal with an alcoholic like another alcoholic. Nobody does. There's no formula. There's no book. There's nothing. If you're not an alcoholic, you really can't help an alcoholic get sober. I mean, you might care about the person and you might want them to get sober and do everything you can, but the best shot they got is they need to hook up with another alcoholic that's sober, and they can exchange information, and that will help break the person that's drinking, that the person that's in active alcoholism. It will help break their denial. And if that denial doesn't get broken, then they stay in denial and they die. Like my sisters and my brothers, and my dad and my mom. My dad and my mom are sober, and then most I ever had was 7 years, but I don't give up. I keep trying. Like I had 4 years, and then I've been drinking for 2 days, but I already noticed my face is starting to deteriorate, and then I don't remember last night, and then I notice my memory is going just really fast. I mean, my short-term memory is just going out the window. Yeah. So even after 4 years of not having it, my body still reacts to it the same way, and the disease actually progresses. So the longer you have it and the older you get, even though you abstain from it for a while, when you go back to it, they say you pick up where you left off, which is true. I've known some people that, like, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and they go back and they're dead within a week or two, few days. Then I've known people personally that had, 15, 16, 22 years or whatever, and rather than going back to drinking, they just couldn't deal with life, so they just committed suicide, or they blew their brains out instead. I guess in my case, I would rather go back to drinking than to blow my brains out, because once you do that, you can't come back, you know. But I always kept trying, and I'll continue to try, and that will be my life story. And I've been to thousands of meetings, worked all the steps with the sponsor, gone to conventions, sponsored people, saved a lot of lives, helped a lot of people out, helped people to stop or point them the right way. And so pretty much their best bet, like I said, you need one real alcoholic to talk to the other one, so they can connect, to get the other person aware of what they're doing, their alcoholism. Nobody can do that. It doesn't come out of a book. You have to have another alcoholic to help the other alcoholic. That's their best bet. And this is from years and years and years of being around it on all different sides. And then they have a shot at it, They have a shot at living. you know. I mean, maybe they'll go back and forth. Maybe they'll never be able to get very much long time sober, but at least they'll live longer than if they didn't have a shot at it. I mean, I just come back and I try again, and I will come back and try again. But a lot of people, they go back to drinking, and they're so ashamed, or for whatever reason, or the disease consumes them again, that they don't want to go back to meetings, or they don't want to try to sober up again. And then those people are pretty much, they're going to wind up dead. And then a lot of people, like, they take it personally, you know. That the alcoholic isn't giving them enough of attention, or they quit their job, or they're not being responsible, or they're not being nice, or they take it personally in relationships. But they're dealing with the alcoholism. It's not the person, so it's never personal. I mean, a lot of the wreckage or damage and trouble that I caused other people wasn't meant directly at them. It was just me in my alcoholism, because alcohol was my God for years. It controlled my thoughts and my feelings and my reactions and my conniving and my manipulating and my lying and the whole thing. It had nothing really to do with the other individual. The people that are in denial about the alcoholic, that are trying to get him sober, are usually feel pretty battered, because they've taken it personally, all this stuff that the alcoholic has put on them. But that stuff it's really the alcoholic's issue, and the alcoholic's God, the alcohol, their addiction. So you get them to meet the other, and like I said, you detox them correctly. They meet the other drunk. And then the best thing you can do is, if you're not an alcoholic and you're involved with an alcoholic, is you need to go to Alateen or Al-Anon, so you will understand how the alcoholic works, how they manipulate. You get an overall picture of what the alcoholic's really about. You stop taking it personally, and then you stop enabling him. Because a lot of alcoholics get to the point of where they're unable to sustain or function on their own, and so they start manipulating you in every way possible. And you go to Alateen or Al-Anon, and then you figure out, you know, what they're doing and how they're manipulating you, and you learn how to have your boundaries, so they don't get under your skin, and they're not able to manipulate you by their God, alcohol, that's controlling their brain and their life. So once you get them to go to detox and everything, the best thing you can do is do your part and get help for yourself. And that's where a lot of people are codependents, are involved with alcoholics. They don't get the right help. And then it bungles the whole thing up, and it sets the alcoholic up again for drinking again and everything. It just creates the vicious cycle again. I mean, it takes two people to tango. So the best thing you can do after you get them to break their denial is to break your own denial about your relationship with the alcoholic.